What, then, shall we do? 20. God said, Go ye to the place where mortals kill fish and worms, and in the same time that mortals tear these things with their 196 Oahspe teeth, snatch from their hands and mouths the atmospherine parts of the food, and give it to these Asians. Remember, also, that little by little ye shall teach them to live on other kinds of food. 21. And as ye do by these Asians, do ye also in after time to others, remembering that what men subsist on in corporeal life, is entailed on them in spirit for a space of time after entering atmosphere, and of like substance shall they be fed spiritually. The Oahspes then departed. 22. On the third day thereafter, as above mentioned, the voice of JEHOVIH came to God, saying, 23. My son, behold what the Oahspes have done in thy name thoughtlessly. They came to the fishery and did as thou badest, gathering food for the Asians, and at their side stood the Asians, saying, Why gather ye food for us? Behold, we are now strong in spirit, suffer us to gather for ourselves. And the Oahspes said, It seemeth well, do as ye desire. 24. Thereupon, the Asians went to the fishermen and fisherwomen, who were eating raw flesh, and the Asians laid hold of the atmospherine part, and ate thereof a suff each and see. And then the Oahspes said to them, Ye have feasted sufficiently, come ye away with us. 25. But lo, the Asians engrafted themselves on the fishermen and fisherwomen, and would not depart. The Oahspes, not knowing what to do, called on my name. Send thou, O God, quickly to them, those skilled in deliverance, that my Asians be preserved unto everlasting life. 26. And God summoned those skilled in deliverance of engraftment, and dispatched them hastily with messengers to the place of the fisheries. 27. JEHOVIH said, From the trees, the fruits, the flowers, the grains and seeds, and roots that grow in the ground, have I created a ceaseless harvest going upward into the atmosphere, which shall be the sustenance of the spirits of men newborn in heaven. But whosoever feasted on flesh on earth, shall not find spiritual food in heaven, but he shall return to the butcheries and eating houses where flesh is eaten, and he shall feast on the atmospherine part thereof, before it is rotten. Be ye guarded of them, lest they engraft themselves on mortals, feasting on their feasts, and so go down to destruction. 28. After many days the Oahspes came before God, saying, The physicians severed such as were bound, and we brought them away. Shall this be our labor day and night, to lead these Asians about, finding them clothes and food? This have we observed, the more we do for them, the less they do for themselves. 29. JEHOVIH spake through God, saying, A nurse I provided for the newborn, but when he is grown I command him to provide for himself that he may be a glory in my kingdoms. By charity alone ye cannot raise man up, but be diligent to teach him to try continually to raise himself, for herein lieth the glory of manhood. 30. The Oahspes said, If we leave the Asians alone they will return again to the fisheries and fasten themselves upon mortals, doing nothing but eating. 31. God said, Near the fisheries, but in atmosphere, go ye and fashion a colony, and it shall be your colony in heaven. Thither take these Asians, not showing them the way of the fisheries. In the colony put ye them to work, weaving and making clothes and otherwise producing, but go ye for the food at the fisheries, and bring sufficient every day, giving only to them who labor, or to invalids and helpless ones. By this ye shall inspire them to labor, which is the foundation of the growth of the Spirit, and in course of time they will not only care for themselves, but join ye in helping others, which is the beginning of the second resurrection. 32. Behold, this lesson have ye learned, that according to the diet and the habit of mortals on earth, so must ye provide their spirits when first entered in heaven. 33. Choose ye, therefore, of your own people a sufficient number to make all things required in a delightful colony, whether it be food and clothing, or nurseries, or hospitals, or place of worship, or place of dancing, and receive ye as many Asians as may be delivered from the earth, raising them up in industry, virtue, wisdom, mirth, love, benevolence and adoration, and this shall be a new heaven unto you all. 34. Ye are my chosen, and an example colony of all the kingdoms I shall build in my heaven. The time cometh when the whole atmosphere around about the earth shall be filled with countless millions of angels born out of the earth. 35. Be swift in your labor. The people spring up from the earth rapidly into heaven, and every colony ye now found shall, in time 20 Book of Sethantes, son of Jehovih. 7 To come, be a great kingdom, requiring experienced workmen. Whosoever laboreth most efficiently for Jehovih, him will I promote to wider fields. 36. Ye are as one of the cornerstones of Cephas, and his house shall embrace Atmospheria and the whole earth. Words are already taking root in the mouths of mortals, and for tens of thousands of years will war reign, might against might, darkness against darkness. Hundreds of millions will be slain in wars on the earth, and their souls be thrown into chaos. Even as ye beheld these spirits fastening onto mortals for food, so will spirits in chaos, millions of them, fasten themselves on the battlefields, still battling, or fasten themselves on mortals, obsessing them to madness and death. Chapter IV. O God established colonies in heaven for the reception of the spirits of mortals, and the colonies embraced the arts of healing, education, industry, drapery, manufactories, the building of ships, and all things required for the spirit, even as corporeal things are required by mortals. 2. And great labor came upon the hosts of God who founded these things, toiling day and night, receiving the Essenes and providing for them food and clothing. And many of the hosts of God lamented that they had come to the corporeal earth, and they framed songs and anthems of lamentation, and these they chanted even whilst at labor. 3. God was troubled that they should thus lament in presence of the Essenes, and he called together the proper officers that he might rebuke them. But lo and behold, the light of Jehovah spake from the throne, saying, 4. Rebuke them not, O my son. Did I not command them, saying, Behold, I have created a new world, come ye and enjoy it, even the earth. And when they had come, said I not to them, Enjoy ye all the fruits of the earth, save the fruit of the tree of life, lest ye die. But Corpor spake to them, and they believed in Corpor. Wherefore then shall they not lament? Do they not remember their former homes in Etheria, and thus aspire to regain them? 5. But seek thou, O my son, to make their lamentations a glory in the souls of the Essenes, that they may also aspire to a higher heaven. 6. The voice departed, and God, perceiving the wisdom of Jehovah, commanded certain officers to collect many of the anthems and deposit them in the library of Hord, in heaven, and it was so done. 7. This, then, is after the manner of their lamentations, to wit. 8. Where is my home, O Jehovah? When I was happy and my feet wandered. 9. I dwelt with thy hosts, afar. Afar. Thy glory shining. 10. O the songs in thy upraised kingdoms. When shall I rejoice in the music of my own house? 11. O those sparkling, running waters. O the pastimes and feasts of love. 12. Where is it, O Jehovah? It was my home in high heaven. 13. I fell in darkness. Wandering soul within me, that leddest me forth. 14. The gardens of Jehovah stood on every hand. O senseless feet to take me onward. 15. Into the darkness was I lured. Sweet perfumes rose amidst the darkness. 16. Intricate in thy glory, O Jehovah. I lost the way. I was lost. 17. The music of thy spheres was shut out. I was environed in darkness. 18. Where is my home, O Jehovah? Why have I forsaken it? 19. Crystals, and high arches on every hand. Full, standing out, shining. 20. And the songs of my sweet loves. Such was my home and place of revelry. 21. I bartered them all away, wandering forth. Buried me in the opaque, in the dark. 22. O for my home in high heaven. Mirth, song, rest and love, clear shining. 23. Thou, O Jehovah, hast given me sons and daughters. Out of this darkness my gems were born. 24. O I will polish them up. Kin of my kin, I will raise them up. 25. Thy goddesses in heaven above will come. In ships of fire descending. 26. My jewels shall enter and rise with me. We shall search for my home, the haven of rest. 27. I see thee, O Jehovah, afar off. Higher than the highest of heavens. 28. O hasten, my home, and my rest. O ripen these, my precious diadems. 29. O take us to ethereal worlds. 30. But no one could repeat their number 218 Oahspe. Aus lamentations, for there were hundreds of thousands of them. And as the Ethereans sang them, the Essenes, the newborn, the atmosphere ands, listened, longing listened, and looked upward. In chapter V. N the first year of Horde there were received into God's kingdom in heaven, 1.5 million Assyrians, men, women and children, born of the earth. And there were still left within the different divisions of the earth, with the lords, 3.25 million Assyrians, being for the most part fetals. 2. In the first 100 years there were born of the earth, 170 million Assyrians. Such then was the number of 3 generations of Iahans, which is to say, that in those days the number of the inhabitants of the earth, not including the Ajuans, who were not created to everlasting life, was 54 millions. And already had each of the lords, heavenly places become large kingdoms. 3. In those days the period of 5 years was allotted to the Assyrians as their time of infancy in heaven, requiring nurses and helpers, but some of them required many years more. 4. After 5 years the Assyrians were taken from the nurseries, and taught by symbols and objects, the rudiments of education, and drilled in processions, and music and dancing and gymnastics, but every day they were required for a brief period to labor, some at weaving, some spinning and some in transportation. Cubed 5. The voice of JEHOVIH directed God, saying, the structure of my kingdom in heaven requireth it of thee, that thou shalt make all labor an agreeable exercise for the growth of the spirits in thy dominions. 6. And God commanded the officers of the realm of Horde to lengthen the hours of labor, according to the age and strength of the spirits received up from the earth, and it was so. 7. JEHOVIH again spake to God, saying, in all labor thou allottest to those who have sprung up from the earth, freely give to them to do whatever they desire, but thou shalt not suffer them to return to their earth kindred alone, unattended, lest because of their love they engraft themselves, becoming bound to mortals. But when they have lived 50 years in heaven, thou shalt not only permit them to return to mortals, but thou shalt direct them to do so, for in this period they shall have no further desire for engraftment. 8. Again JEHOVIH said, as fast as thou canst appropriate the labor of earth-born spirits to help in the resurrection of others, so shalt thou do in my name. 9. And even so did God and the lords under him, and in the time of 100 years, there were raised up to the second rate, 20 million souls, that had come forth out of the earth. And many of them comprehended the manufactories, the nurseries and schools and hospitals in heaven to the full, and they were in many things alike equal to the requirements of their teachers. B10. The voice of JEHOVIH came to God, saying, it is well, my son, to take a rest. Hold, thou hast toiled 100 years, day and night, without ceasing. Thou shalt, therefore, appoint other officers, and spread out the kingdom of Horde to cover all the land of Waga, the continent of Pan. And thou shalt appoint in my name thy most efficient officer to sit on the throne for a short space of time, for thou shalt travel and visit the 5 lords of the earth and their kingdoms. 11. And thou shalt take with thee 1,000 heralds, and 1,000 messengers and 5,000 musicians. And thou shalt have a ship sufficient to carry thy host, and to be as thy house whithersoever thou goest. See to it, and set all things in order, and depart thou on a journey of 1 year. 12. And God called in the surveyors, who brought maps of earth and heaven showing the best places for extending the kingdom of Horde. 13. And God appointed 50 governors for the 50 places required, and he gave each of them 5,000 men and women to accompany them. And when they were chosen God addressed them from the throne, saying, 14. According to the commandment of the Father are ye chosen, and by his command will I come to your respective places ere long, and bestow ye with all that is required for building up colonies in JEHOVIH's name. As ye witnessed the founding of Horde by the archangel Oahspe, so may ye understand that I will come to you all. Go ye forth, then, taking your hosts, and lay down the foundations for your cities. As ye have learned from me, go ye forth doing as I have done, and as ye do with a small colony, and a small city, so will I give into your keeping that which is greater when ye are prepared therefore. 15. When God ceased, the marshals led the way, and the hosts following their governors. 22 Book of Sethantes, son of JEHOVIH. 9 filed in front of the throne, saluting with the sign of JEHOVIH's name, which was answered by God's hands upraised. Meanwhile the Essonors sang in glory to JEHOVIH. Presently the hosts passed out and beyond the pillars of fire. 16. When all had quieted, God said, let the builders of ships begin now and build a ship for me and my hosts, for the time draweth near. And let the graders choose from my laborers, who have toiled 100 years, day and night, without ceasing, such as shall be my companions and hosts on my journey, according to their grade shall they be chosen. 17. And even so were they chosen and notified. 18. And God said, Whilst I shall be absent there shall sit on my throne, being God in my place, he who standeth highest in the grades. According to the transcendency of him who hath done the most for the resurrection of the Essenes, so shall be your God and my God. 19. And God commanded the graders to present before the throne the records, that the council of Hord might determine the matter. And this was so done. 20. And Hajah, an Etherian, was chosen. And God commanded them to send word unto Hajah, with an escort to conduct him to the capital. 21. In due time the escort brought Hajah into the palace of the kingdom of God, and God was sitting on the throne. With music they came in and filed in front of the throne, forming a crescent, with Hajah betwixt the horns. 22. God said, By command of JEHOVIH have I summoned thee hither, O Hajah. Long have I known thee, even on other worlds. Of all virtues in man which stand highest, which is, never to mention one's self, thou excellest all men in my kingdom. Thy labors for the general upraising of Hord excellest all others. For this reason thou art preferred, and by JEHOVIH chosen to be my assistant whilst I am here, and in my absence to be my very God in the Father's name. 23. Hajah said, This being the will of JEHOVIH, proceed thou. 24. God struck the gavel, and the holy council rose to their feet. God said, In JEHOVIH's name I salute thee, Hajah, as God of Tech, see tablet al-Iadazon, at the end of book of wars against JEHOVIH to hold dominion in Hord. Come forth and receive thou my throne for the father's sake. The marshals then conducted Hajah to the foot of the throne, and God came down and took his hand and led him up. And as they were going forth a light, as of golden fire, came down from the firmament above, sent by the kingdoms high exalted, and God and Hajah were covered around about and illuminated. 25. God said, By thy wisdom, love and power, O JEHOVIH, do I receive this thy son on thy throne. Be thou with him in wisdom and strength for thy glory forever. Amen. 26. God raised up a rod, waving it, and rain came down from heaven. Hajah said, In thy name, O JEHOVIH. Whereupon, God stretched forth his hand unto JEHOVIH, saying, Give me a crown for thy son, God of Tech, O JEHOVIH. 27. And there descended, as if a small star, far lengthened out, a light of gold and silver, and it settled on God's hand, and he fashioned it into a crown, and emblazoned it with the sign God of Tech, and placed it on Hajah's head, saying, In JEHOVIH's name, thee I crown, to sit on the throne in Hord during my absence. 28. Hajah said, Thy son, O JEHOVIH, shall fulfill thy commandments in wisdom and love. May the Father, Creator of worlds, give this thy son rest and comfort for the glories he hath wrought in thy name. Amen. 29. The council said, Amen. The Essenes chanted an anthem of praise to JEHOVIH. And God led Hajah forth and seated him on the throne, saying, Thou art God in my name and JEHOVIH is also. And since I now go down to the earth to sojourn for a season, thou shalt be known as God of both earth and heaven. 30. So God departed out of Hord and embarked on a ship, taking with him 7,000 men and women for his escort, beside 1,000 Essenes and the crew of 3,000 to work the ship. Chapter V. And God went to the provinces of the governors of heaven dwelling on earth, whom he had appointed and sent forth, and as he himself had been commissioned by JEHOVIH in Hord, so did he install the governors on their seats. 2. And the governors were situated within Waga, Pan, at remote distances, but God sent messengers to them, notifying them of the time he would appear. 3. And the Lord being apprised of God's 2-3-10 Oahspe journey, established a protectorate in the Lord's kingdom in the city of Olu, on earth, and went and joined the ship of God, and traveled with him throughout Waga, being present at the inauguration of the governors in these heavens. 4. To each and all the governors, God said, Remember that which is given to my governors pertaineth to things in heaven, for the Lord's matters pertain to earthly things, and to angels that labor with the corporeans. But ye are to attend to the Essenes, receiving them in heaven, providing them with places to sojourn, and in their helplessness supply them with food and clothes, and the rudiments of learning. 5. God said, Remember ye also, the time cometh when each of these governorships shall attain to an independent kingdom, and instead of being governors ye shall be raised as sub-gods. 6. After God established the governors, the Lord persuaded God to visit his place in Olu, and thence to go around about on earth and see the mortals with whom the Lord had to deal. And God consented, and the Lord sent messengers on before him, that the house of the Lord, which mortals had built, might be replenished and cleansed. 7. And the Protectorate notified the Ashers, and the Ashers impressed mortals to go and cleanse and purify the house of the Lord. And so mortals fell to work and cleansed the place, and burned incense of sweet myrrh and hepaton, not even knowing they were fulfilling the command of the Lord. 8. When the ship of the hosts of God came to the city of Olu, mortals saw it high up in the air, and they feared and ran hastily to consult the prophet of the Lord. And the prophet said, Behold, God appeareth in a sea of fire in the firmament of heaven. 9. And God caused the ship to be made unseen, that fear might subside on earth, and he descended with his hosts into the house of the Lord, and they went and touched the things mortals had builded that they might perceive corporeally. 10. And the Lord gave a banquet, and the angels of God tarried 4 days, exchanging fellowship with the Ashers, who ministered to mortals. And the Ashers took the angels of God around about amongst mortals, both whilst mortals were asleep and awake, showing them all things. 11. And because of the presence of the hosts of God, mortals were aroused with new vigor to worship the Lord, rising early and going to the house of worship and continuing all day, and not one of them knew the cause thereof. 12. On the evening of the 4th day God commanded his hosts to prepare to renew the journey, and the ship was again illumined and set for its course. 13. God said, O JEHOVIH, who createth all, look down and bless thy Lord. He hath from his high estate in Etheria, descended to these poor mortals to lift them up. Already hath he toiled with them 100 years. 3 generations have risen up out of the earth, and they begin to glorify thee in thy kingdoms above the earth. Who but thee, O JEHOVIH, can honor thy Lord or know his sore trials? Behold, man groweth up out of the earth, saying, There is no Lord and no God. But his feet and his hands are guided every hour of the day. Yea, when he entereth the unseen worlds, they become seen, but he is helpless in a strange place. And thy Lord provideth him and teacheth him thy kingdoms. Thy Lord goeth from place to place on the earth. He findeth a corner and saith, Here will I build a city. He sendeth his angels forth and they inspire man on the earth to come and build a city. Yet when the city is built, man saith, Behold, there is no God and no Lord. 14. Thy Lord bringeth the corporeans together and guardeth them day and night, but man turneth away in strife and destruction. Then thy Lord withdraweth his angels of the city because of its wickedness, and lo, the city falleth in ruins. But man knoweth not the cause. Yet thy Lord toileth on, day and night, watching, guarding and striving to lift man up out of darkness. O JEHOVIH, Father, bless thy Lord and his hosts. Haste the time when man shall comprehend the foundations of thy kingdoms. 15. The Lord said, O JEHOVIH, ever present, hear the words of thy God. He who comprehendeth the whole earth and the heaven of the earth, knowing no day nor no night. He dealeth with millions, his judgment is sufficient for all. 16. Glorify him, thy Son, of heaven and earth. He fashioneth the homes of thy lords and thy little ones in great wisdom. His love is the glory of all men, his strength fashioned after thy foundations. Give swiftness and rest, and joy in thy quickening to him, thy God. 24 Book of Sethantes, son of Jehovih. 11:17. The mortals of the city of Olu had gathered together to worship, and they were singing and dancing to the Lord, and the angels joined in the singing also. And God went and sat on the altar and illuminated it, so the mortals could see him. And the chief prophet came near the place of the Lord, and the Lord placed his hand on the forehead of the prophet, so he might speak in the name of God. 18. The prophet said, Behold me, I am the God of heaven and earth, and my words come out of the mouth of this my prophet. Keep holy the 4 days of the moon, for they are the Lord's days. See ceremonies of Hidang, Sapha and also Moss. Do no evil, but strive for wisdom and to do good. And when ye are dead, behold, ye shall live, for I have places prepared for ye in my heaven. Rejoice and be merry, for the Lord liveth and reigneth. 19. When the prophet ceased, God rose up from the altar, and his traveling host also, and saluting the Lord in the name of JEHOVIH, disappeared in heaven above. Chapter 7. As mortals sail corporeal ships across the corporeal ocean, so sailed the ship of God in the atmospherine ocean. As a man having 5 sons sendeth 4 away to far-off countries and keepeth one at home, so did God with the 5 lords bequeathed him by great JEHOVIH. 2. And now had God departed from the foundation of Horde, in a ship, in heaven to visit his 4 far-off sons, the lords of the 4 great divisions of the earth, who had to do with both mortals and the spirits of the dead, for the glory of JEHOVIH. 3. First to Jud, lord of Jud, he headed his ship, running close to the earth, bounding forth, and sapping up fuel from the tall forests to feed the phosphorescent flame, running easy till the wild coast on the west of Waga was reached. Here halted he his ship, first god of the first lords of earth, till his navigators told the distance of the wide sea before, then gathering fuel and substance from the rich growing lands, he stowed the ship to the full, he and his traveling host. 4. And God went in, commanding, Go forth, forth into the sea of heaven. And on plunged the ship of God in the winds of the blue firmament, high soaring, above the black clouds sprung from the corporeal ocean. And the music of his 1,000 sonors leapt forth in time and tune to the waves, plenteous and most defiant. 5. JEHOVIH looked down from the highest of all the heavens, his everlasting throne of thrones, saying, Onward, onward, tame the elements, O God, O man, the earth is thine, the air above is thine. Stretch forth thine arm and tame the elements I have made. 6. Onward sped the ship of God, by the force of wills matured, and from its hallowed light displaying its purpose before other traveling gods and men, in other ships cruising, on adventurous paths in JEHOVIH's wide oceans of splendor. 7. Merrily sang the crew, and danced, and sighted the wide expanse, premising of the scattering ships coursing hither and yon, in strange colors and marvelous swiftness. 8. On one side the rising moon, the setting sun on the other, beneath lie the black clouds and great corporeal ocean, and yet high above twinkled the stars and the planets of the great serpent on his long journey. 9. God came forth and surveyed the scene, and the power of JEHOVIH moved upon him. Then gathered around him his 7,000 loves and traveling companions. Said God 10. All thy places are new, great JEHOVIH. For thousands of years have I gazed on thy matchless splendors, seen and unseen, but thy glory groweth richer day by day. When thy voice came to me, more than 100 years ago, saying, Go, my son, I have a new garden planted, take some workmen and till the soil, I foresaw the long labor of the generations that would spring up out of the earth. I feared and trembled. I said, Shall the 11? How shall it be, O JEHOVIH? New earth be peopled over, and mortals run their course as on other worlds before. First, in wholesome love and worship and do reverence to the gods, and then for ages and ages bury themselves in bloody wars. O lead me forth, Father JEHOVIH, I will take thy garden for a season, and fence it round with lords, and wise kingdoms. And with thy potent spirit hedge mortals on every side, that the earth shall bloom as a paradise for angels and men. 12. And thy sons and daughters came with me, and engrafted thy immortal kingdom. 13. How is it now? How compares my labor with that of other gods on other worlds? 2512 Oahspe. 14. O ye archangels, gods and goddesses, look down on the great earth. JEHOVIH hath filled my arms with a great load. I tremble on the immortal scales. 15. And God, transfixed, looked up into the swift, passing sky, for his voice reached to the thrones of Etherian worlds whereon the Osirian regents reigned in all power. And down from amidst the stars shot a single ray of light engrossed with the adorable words, JEHOVIH's Son, all hail. Hail, God of earth, JEHOVIH's Son. Glory, glory to great JEHOVIH, for all that thou hast done. 16. Then upward furled the shining light till it faded midst the far-off stars. Anew the trumpeters and singers sent forth a strain of sweet music, spirited and sounding full of soul. And as the music glided forth across the waters, lo, other music, strange and welcome, came from the west lands to the borders of the ocean. 17. The ship was across the sea, and the hosts of the Lord had come to meet the God of earth and heaven. And now, saluting loud and long, the 2 ships drew to close anchorage. Presently the messengers interchanged, and in JEHOVIH's name greeted God and his hosts, who were old-time friends to the Lord and his. 18. God said, By thy will, O JEHOVIH, let us take course for the Lord's kingdom and place of labor. And presently the two ships sped forth, close to the earth, conjoined in the music of anthems of olden times. 19. Far up into the heart of the country, where fertile lands and mountains and waters were close companion to the Asuan race, the ships led on till one pillar of fire, standing on a mountain side, proclaimed the place of the Lord, and here they halted and made fast the vessels, unseen by mortals. These chapter 8. HESE chieftains had been long friends on other worlds, and pledged to join in an adventure on some new corporeal world, to raise up to JEHOVIH, sons and daughters. Now was it being fulfilled in the Lord and God remotely situated, and the time of this visit much looked forward to. 2. And so God and the Lord came forth, saying, in JEHOVIH's name. Met at last, and they embraced and reassured each other that it was really true, which they had talked of 1,000 years before. 3. And then came forward all the hosts of God and the hosts of the Lord, knowing one another and saluting and embracing also. Thereupon they proceeded to the house of the Lord, which mortals had been inspired to build of wood and clay. And when they were within they joined in prayer and thanks to JEHOVIH, and they sang and danced, and rejoiced to their souls' content. 4. At sunrise the next morning the mortal priests and priestesses, led by a prophet, went into the house of the Lord, to pray and sing and dance as they had been taught by inspiration of the Lord, but many people lingered without, saying to one another. 5. I fear, Ta-hop. For last night I saw lights in the house of the Lord, and I heard like singing and dancing before the altar of God. 6. Nevertheless their companions persuaded them, and they went in and sang and danced also. 7. After a time of rejoicing and of quiet the Lord said, Behold, O God, the follies of Judgment, and the vain calculations of even lords and gods. We look upon the mature man, saying, Alas, he is stubborn in his own way, we cannot convert him. Then we desire the immature, saying, Him will I raise up in mine own way, and he shall not depart from my judgment. But we tire of his immaturity and slow growth. 8. God said, Hereon hangeth the highest testimony of the person of great JEHOVIH. The nearest blank of all the living created he man, purposely unlike all the rest and devoid of sense. Whereas, according to the order of the other animal world, a newborn babe should be already wise. 9. JEHOVIH saith, All the living have I provided with certain paths to travel in, but man alone I created new out of all things dead and dissolved, and he shall grow forever. To the beast I gave an already created sense, self, to man I allotted angels. And even these have I provided with others above them, and yet others above them, forever and ever. Hence the first of man, the newborn babe, I created a blank in sense and judgment, that he may be a witness that even he himself was fashioned and created anew by my hand. Neither created I him imperfectly, that he should re-enter a womb and be born over again. That which I do is well done, saith JEHOVIH. 26 Book of Sethantes, son of Jehovih. 13:10. The Lord said, Thou art wise, O God. The opposites prove JEHOVIH. Water runneth downhill, but man walketh up the hillside. The tree groweth up out of the ground whilst it liveth, but after death it falleth. Man standeth on the earth, but the earth resteth on that which is lighter than the earth. JEHOVIH saith, The life of the tree is of me, the unseen that holdeth the corporeal earth in its place, is of me. 11. And yet, O God, who can attain to know JEHOVIH? The mortal saith, When I am dead and risen in heaven I shall see the Great Spirit, but he faileth, being still helpless, yea, as helpless in his place as he was helpless on the earth. Then he saith, When I am strong and wise, like lords and gods, and can traverse the wide firmament, then I will see JEHOVIH. But when he riseth and can shape his vessel through the whirlwinds of the vortices of heaven, and he is called Lord or God, lo, he findeth the arks and the Ethia standing before him still. More and more is he appalled at thought of the great I Am who liveth still beyond. 12. He hurrieth down to the corporeal earth to teach mortals and spirits of JEHOVIH, and his endless worlds and exalted heavens. But lo, the darkness of men, they say, I see him not, I hear him not, I believe not in him. He is but as the wind, going without sense, as the water goeth down the hill, so is he is dead, he is nothing. 13. And the Lord inventeth ways and means, yea, he teacheth man to pray and sing to JEHOVIH, that the sounds may lead his soul upward. The Lord telleth him to wear clothes, and hide his nakedness from the Lord, and the Lord sendeth angels to award him for his good deeds. And the angels of the Lord lay plots and stratagems in man's pathway to stir him up. Yea, JEHOVIH gave man sleep, so that his corporeal bound spirit might see and hear heavenly things. But man loadeth his ach, and debaucheth on intoxicating smoke. And how keener hast thou made our sense of our own weakness, than those who look upon us. Thy Lord is my God in the glories he hath wrought out of such crude substance, and I sing to his praise and love. Lo, I have looked upon the naked man and woman of this great land, crawling on hands and feet, with no thought but to eat, and I have seen them raised up by thy Lord and his ashers, to walk upright and use words of speech and to wear clothes and skins to hide their nakedness. Yea, O Father, I have cried out with great joy, and I called aloud unto thee, O JEHOVIH, saying, Who knoweth the labor of the Lord? Will man ever forget to sing praises to the Lord God? 16. But JEHOVIH saith, I will keep some of the tribes of men in darkness till the last days, for man in his conceit shall be confounded, for he shall perceive that the tribes of darkness cannot put away their own darkness. Yea, man shall bow down in reverence to my lords in the early days of the earth. 17. Thus conversed God and his Lord, as they went forth to see the work of the Lord, and to find the mortals that had given up the places of Oahspe and come to live in villages and cities. Around about over the continent of Jud they traveled for many days and nights. And when God had seen all the work of the Lord, he said, 18. Behold, it is good. Thy toil and seclusion away from the lords of the upper heavens are severe, but thou art fashioning the love of lions, who shall bless thee. 19. Now whilst God sojourned here, his hosts regaled themselves with the company of the Ashers and Asaphs in the kingdom of the Lord, and great was the love and rejoicing amongst them. Chapter Hen was ended, rink till his soul is buried in darkness despair, hosts godified, the Lord gave a banquet. 14. And the Lord crieth out in how weak am I, O JEHOVIH, before thee. I took upon me to be Lord over men on the earth, to learn my lesson in the government of worlds. But O JEHOVIH, I know I fail in thy sight. What will thy God say when he beholdeth my little good? What pity have the archangels for thy struggling Lord of earth? 15. God perceived the sorrow of his friend, and he said, O JEHOVIH, who art almighty, that lasted 2 days and nights, during which the angels sang and danced and trumpeted before God. After that God and his hosts embarked on the ship in readiness to proceed on the journey, and the Lord went up to the ship to take leave, and his host went with him. 2. God said, When Dan approacheth we shall meet again. May JEHOVIH prosper thy harvests. Till then. 27:14 Oahspe. 3. The Lord said, That is another 100 years. O God, I almost live in a wilderness. I have not 10 millions of souls, mortals and spirits. 4. God said, Thy kingdom shall be mighty when I come again. May it glorify JEHOVIH. 5. They embraced and separated. Each gave the sign of JEHOVIH's name. Upward raised the ship of God, with banners outstretched, and new ornamented by the Lord's angels. And now, taking course still west, sped on above the mountain tops, like a meteor hurled from heaven. Meanwhile the trumpeters gave forth the gladly solemn sound of the march of God. 6. But ere the ship had made half its journey, an approaching light came forth from the far west, radiant and laden with hosts from the Lord of Dis, and the Lord of the earth also. 7. When the ships drew near and halted, God called with a loud voice, saying, In JEHOVIH's name, all hail. I know my Lord cometh. 8. And thereupon the Lord answered, Hail to thee, O God, Son of JEHOVIH. And they turned the Lord's ship and lashed the twain together even as they sped on. 9. Now after they had all exchanged welcome and good wishes, the Lord said, Ere we go to my central throne let us survey the continent over which thy servant is Lord of land and water. 10. And God answered, Thy will be done, O Lord. And so they journeyed for many days, oft descending to the earth in places where the Lord's angels had begun colonies with mortals, impressing man with words of speech, and to live in villages. 11. And God said that all he saw was good and well done. So they came to the throne of the Lord and halted and sojourned for 60 days. 12. And God and his hosts and the Lord and his Ashers and Asaphs were together in general reunion, praying, singing and dancing and reasoning on the endless works of JEHOVIH. But one book could not contain all that was said and done, and of the excursions made, and the visits over the plains and mountains, wherein thousands of years hence man should live and build cities, and go to war and destroy them. 13. And the mathematicians foretold the great cities and nations that would rise up, how this one and that one would move to battle, how their great cities would fall in ruins and be covered up by falling nebulae, and by denuding mountains washing down upon them, so that even their remembrance should be lost. And yet, further on, the mathematicians foretold the coming of Cosman, when the ruined cities would be discovered and their histories deciphered by the suis of man in great JEHOVIH's hand. 14. And now when all these things were estimated, the prophets and mathematicians went before God according to the commandments of the Lord, and they spake before God, Son of JEHOVIH, telling all these wonders. 15. When they had finished, God said, What is our service on the earth, O Lord? A few centuries at most, and we will have risen up from the earth, taking our hosts with us to dwell in higher realms. But there shall be other gods and lords after us, to deal with mortals and spirits newly born. After a while there shall be great warriors and great cities and nations, and they shall have gods and lords of their times who will dwell many a weary year, century, in the darkness with man. After that again, even the gods and lords will be forgotten. And man will turn against great JEHOVIH, putting to death his adherents, preferring idols of stone and metal, and spirits born of woman. 16. The Lord said, And yet further on a brighter light adorneth the way. Great JEHOVIH's hand sendeth the traveling worlds into the light of Cosman, and new prophets arise. Gathering up the histories lost, and glorious plan of the Great Spirit over all. Yea, even thy labor and my ships will be seen by mortals of that day. 17. Thus they discoursed, reading the past and the future, and weighing the present, whilst angels less informed, gathered around to learn how worlds are peopled, and nations and cities destroyed, the far off, and the near at hand, being as nothing in JEHOVIH's vast universe. 18. But the time came for God's departure, and he and his traveling host embarked, and the Lord and his angels drew around to receive God's prayer ere he left. And so after they had embraced and parted, God said, 19. Though I go away, my love abideth with you all. And now, O JEHOVIH, bless these my fellow laborers, and make them strong to endure their great trials. Thine is the power and glory, O Father. Amen. 20. The ship rose up and the trumpeters gave forth glory to thee, O JEHOVIH, forever and ever. 28 Book of Sethantes, son of JEHOVIH. 15 Chapter X. Jeshipteth South Land, my son, and visit Jehovih spake to God, saying, Steer thy Lord, who is God of Vohu. And God went as commanded, to the south, running close to the earth, over deserts and mountains. 2. But when they were a short way on the journey they were met by the Lord, who had been apprised of God's coming. And the ship of the Lord came also, and made fast to the vessel of God, and all the angels saluted and intermingled, having known one another hundreds of years, and some for more than 1,000 years. 3. The Lord said, On our journey let us run through the valleys and the banks of rivers, for it is here that both Asu and men dwell. And so they journeyed, surveying the earth as they sailed above. The country was mostly barren, not supporting man nor beast. 4. But by the river sides man dwelt, burrowing in the ground to avoid the heat by day and the cold by night. And they came to places where the angels of the Lord were dwelling with mortals, having inspired them to make villages and to hide their nakedness. 5. The Lord said, Behold, O God, only the unseen is potent over man. Could the beasts or the stones or the forest tell man to hide his nakedness, he would not, neither will he heed his brother's voice. Without experience man cannot be advised profitably to himself, for such hath JEHOVIH made him. Because man cannot discern angel presence, the angels alone can teach man and inspire him to new life. For they talk to him in his sleep, and show him what is for his own good. And when he waketh in the morning, he supposeth it was himself talking, and he is ambitious to obey himself. The earth, being believing, and quickly he mounteth to the thrones of thy exalted heavens. Great is the work of thy Lord, O Father. 9. The Lord said, Who knoweth thy wisdom, O JEHOVIH? Who cannot perceive thee in the foundations of thy everlasting worlds? Thou hast provided nurses for the new earth, and out of this, thy footstool, wilt thou bring forth many, who will, in the far future time, be laboring as thy Lord and his angels labor here. Of what expanse is thy wisdom, O JEHOVIH? 10. Thus they conversed and journeyed forth till they reached the throne and place of the Lord. And here they made fast their ships, and they descended down to the city of Ongu, in upper middle of the continent of Vohu. Africa. Ed. 11. And the Lord now sent messengers to all the Ashers in his dominions, appointing 10 days of rest, and time for feasting and music, and dancing and worshipping JEHOVIH. 12. And so it came to pass that the angels of the Lord and of God held a reunion, being the first one for over 100 years. 13. And then God went around about over all the continent of Vohu, inspecting the work the Lord had done, and he pronounced it good before JEHOVIH. 14. When God had rested the full time, he and his hosts entered the ship of God, and taking leave of the Lord and his hosts, departed on the journey, saluting the Lord with a thousand trumpeters in the name of JEHOVIH. Chapter 11. Patient and of long endurance are the angels, and now came the long journey across of the Lord. 6. God said, Will man ever know he hath been raised up? Will he be believing? Or will he, too, need go to some new world and raise up the first fruits thereof and toil his hundreds of years with naked mortals? O JEHOVIH, how wisely hast thou shapen the labors of the believing and the unbelieving. 7. Lo, man cometh forth out of the earth, boasting of his unbelief, saying, Except I see with my own eyes, and feel with my own hands, I will not believe. But thou, O JEHOVIH, hast fitted a labor for his eyes, and for his hands, to his heart's content. 8. And yet another man cometh forth out of the ocean. God said, Great is thy wisdom, O JEHOVIH, in the division of waters. Thy barriers provide nations against nations. A refuge hast thou made beyond the waters, and the evil man cannot pursue. But greater still are thy spirit oceans, O Father. Spirits of darkness cannot cross over, and the spirits of newborn peoples are not contaminated. Thou far-seeing, thou bestower of thrift into the hands of thy gods and thy lords. The 2. The master of the ship provided well for the journey, and presently the vessel of fire sped over the water, high above the clouds that cover the ocean. Onward to the west, bleak and desolate, through the spirit sea, unto 9:16 Oahspe. Seen by mortals, on the far-off borders where the lands come to the waters, edge, the lord of the land of Thori America, Ed. Stood, stationed in a ship, to welcome God to the great west lands. 3. And this was the land called by the angels in after time North Gautama, signifying the meeting of nations and the dawn of Cosmon. 4. God came down out of the ship and stood on the land, and a light of Etherian flame descended upon him, and JEHOVIH spoke out of the light, saying, Hear me, O my son. Hither have I brought thee. This land is the last of the circle, even as Waga is the first. Behold, when the earth is circumscribed around about with such as choose me, I will come hither with a great awakening light to the souls of men. 5. On this land will I finish the dominion of the gods and lords on earth, even as begun on Waga. Through thee and thy lords will I now lay the foundation for my kingdoms. On this land will I raise up a people who shall be the fulfilling of that which the Iahans of Waga profess, for my chosen shall come out boldly against all dominion save mine, even JEHOVIH. Look over this land, my son, and provide unto the time of Cosmon. 6. My prophets shall foretell thee what shall happen. Thou shalt look upon the mountains and strong standing rocks, and the thought of thy soul shall pierce them, and the impression thereof shall be as a written book before the races of men in that day. Neither shall they know the cause, but they shall come forth in tens of thousands, putting away all gods and lords and ancient tyranny, for my sake. Thy soul shall be my talisman, deep engraven in the land and water and mountains. 7. On this land alone shall not any lord nor god be established by the sword, for it is my land, which I plan for the deliverance of the nations of the earth. 8. The hosts of both the ships came and joined in gleesome reunion after 100 years' absence, and it came to pass that God and a record of thy labors shall descend through the lords and gods that come after thee, even down to the time of the coming light of Cosmon. 11. And the people who shall dwell here till that day, shall never be worshippers of any lord or god, such as other people shall worship. 12. Let my seal be put upon this land, in the name of JEHOVIH, and to him I consecrate it forever. 13. So, after that time, God rested from his labors, and the Lord with him. And the Lord prepared a feast and reunion for all the angels in his dominions. 14. And they thus assembled and sang and prayed and danced, and conversed on things long past and things of the future, reassuring one another of their love and high esteem after the manner of mortals of this day. 15. When the banquet was ended, God and his traveling host, in due ceremony and order, took their leave. Thus God departed. And when the ship of God was raised up and under way, the voice of JEHOVIH came to God, saying, 16. Steer thy ship, my son, around about over all the other lands and islands and waters of the earth. Go low down to the earth that thy recording angels may witness the affairs of men in all the places I created on the earth, and the waters of the earth. 17. Thus God visited all places on land and water, even where man lived not, as well as where he lived, and the angels made a record thereof in the books of heaven. 18. And the time of the journey and the visits of God to the places of earth and her heavens was 1 year and 7 days, and his rest was completed. So he sent messengers to Hord, his heavenly kingdom, announcing the time of his coming. And he then set sail therefore. Chapter 12. Hen it was known in Hord that God traveled over the land and waters of the great W was about to return, Oahspe put all west continent. 9. And all the places that the Lord had searched out, to the east and west and north and south, even to the farthest boundary, were revealed and recorded in the books of heaven. 10. God said, And thou, my Lord, shalt mark out the place of the dominion of JEHOVIH in the founding of his kingdom on earth. Things in readiness for God's reception. 2. And there volunteered 10,000 musicians and 5,000 bearers of banners, 1,000 marshals and officers of the throne, and 100,000 receivers, to go part way and meet God and his companions. 3. And Oahspe granted their prayers in 30 book of Sethantes, son of JEHOVIH. 17 They started at once, being the most majestic host that had as yet gone forth in the lower heaven. 4. And when they were a little way off, behold, God and his ship of fire approached in heavenly splendor. And the marshals met him and laid hold of the handle of the ship, whereon all the hosts did in like manner, save the musicians, who sang and played. 5. When they drew near and entered Hord, Oahspe broke down from his high estate, and left the throne, running to meet God as a child would run to its father. And when the multitude saw this, they also broke loose from decorous behavior and gave full vent to their outbursting love for God and his hosts. And all the people became as a tumult in rivalry of rejoicing. 6. In a little while God and Oahspe turned and walked to the throne, ascending thereon, and Oahspe took his place, and God sat on his right, and order reigned. 7. Oahspe said, In thy name, O JEHOVIH, I welcome back thy first son of earth to the kingdom thou hast bestowed upon him, and thy sons and daughters. As much as he hath glorified thee, by his labor and by his wisdom and love, so do we honor him in thy name and for thy glory. 8. God said, In thy name, O JEHOVIH, do I return to these, my loves. That I am returned I glorify thee, O my Father. That thou hast made them to rejoice, is the glory of my life. 9. And now a great light gathered up around the throne, so that many could not look thereon, and presently the power of JEHOVIH came upon Oahspe, and the voice of JEHOVIH spake through him, saying to God, 10. This is again thy throne, O my son. Thou shalt finish that which I have put upon thee. Thy people shall learn the manner of my kingdoms, and know that even as I make all, so do I rule over all. 11. Hang up thy traveling garb, my son, dismiss thy traveling hosts and resume thy seat on the throne, for I gave it thee. The voice departed. Oahspe rose up and stood aside, and the light fell upon God, and he resumed the throne and was hailed by the multitude in JEHOVIH's name. 12. God said to Oahspe, Because thou hast prospered my kingdom during 1 whole year, thou shalt be my companion and assistant, with power and wisdom to superintend all matters not direct with my lords. 13. Behold, this day have I set apart as a new day in heaven and earth, because on this day the sun taketh its course for the Hadent north line, and from this time forth it shall be called the New Year's Day. So shall it be, from this time forth, the day of the relief watch in Hord. 14. Hear my voice, O Oahspe, and ye of the council of the throne of heaven. That which I commanded shall ye proclaim throughout heaven and earth to all who serve me. 15. Because of the increase of the kingdom of Horde I will have the place enlarged, and the council shall no longer be called a council, but Mebe, for it shall be an assembly over all councils below it. 16. And Mebe shall no longer deal with the affairs of individuals, even though they be lords, but it shall have dominion with the cities and kingdoms of heaven, and with judgments and decrees. 17. But in all matters of less degree, this, my son Oahspe, shall have dominion. And thou, O Oahspe, shalt build thee a house in Horde, near this throne, and it shall be thy house and the place of thy business. Chapter 13. O God enlarged the place of Horde, and built 1,000 more pillars of fire, enlarging the circle and otherwise making it a place of splendor. And God called together the recorders from the libraries of heaven, and caused them to select 100,000 new members for the house of Mebe Parliament, choosing them from the highest on the lists. In this matter, God said, 2. Seek not the most learned, nor the most prayerful, for members, but choose ye such as rank highest in assimilating to JEHOVIH and to their fellows, for such are the first to become gods and goddesses. JEHOVIH saith, A strong man may do more good works than a weak one, and yet the latter may stand fairer in my sight. I open the way to the weak and the strong, to the learned and the unlearned. 3. God said, In all these matters, whatever man or woman hath put away self-desires for self's sake, serving the Father by laboring for others, is on the road to wisdom. And if the records show a sufficient time for growth in such man or woman, whereby these virtues become organic, then choose ye that person, for of such shall be need. 3:1-18 Oahspe. 4. So the laborers gathered from the Heavens around about, Oahspe, and built Mebe with chapter 14. And the second day after the house of Mobin, suitable for the members to be seated accord was completed, and all the members were into their rank. And when it was finished, on that same day, the recorders brought the new members, and they went into the temple to their respective places. 5. And when seated, God spake from the throne, saying, To thee, O JEHOVIH, have I built the house of Mebe in Horde, and by thy wisdom have I chosen the members thereof. To thee, O Father, I dedicate this house, and it shall be thy house. Give us of thy light, O JEHOVIH, that we may not err. 6. A light descended from the heavens above, and fell upon the members of Mebe, as a symbol of approval by the archangels, and presently the new members rose up, every one of their own accord, but the old members remained seated. 7. God said, Above your heads I make the sign of JEHOVIH's name, in a circle of fire, and the cross, and the leaf of life, for by it are ye sworn to the Father's labor. 8. Hear me, then, O my beloved. Ye are henceforth denied individual ministration with individuals, but ye are now become a unit with many, and with these must your labor and your love and your wisdom be in concert of action. 9. Henceforth must ye no longer say, What can I do for this man or that man, or this woman or that woman, or this child or that child? For this is individual labor, and on the earth such ministration belongeth to the Ashers, and in atmosphere, such ministration belongeth to the Asaphs. But ye shall minister to organic communities who are composed of individuals. For there are communities for factories, and others for education, and others for treatment of the sick, and such communities exist both on earth and in heaven. 10. Ye shall divide yourselves into groups for this purpose, and every group shall have its special business in charge, and each group shall stand in Mebe as one member of JEHOVIH's judgment seat. According to your talents shall ye divide, and group together, choosing such department wherein each one hath the greatest wisdom and strength. Withdraw, then, and thus complete your groups according to rates my proper officers in their respective places. JEHOVIH spake through God, saying, 2. Now is the beginning of the second resurrection. Even as the corporean putteth off the corporeal body, and is born a spirit, becoming the first resurrection, so are ye, putting away individual self and becoming an organic community, the beginning of the second resurrection. 3. As they of the first are for individual self, so have I bound them close on the face of the earth. As they survived on the earth on corporeal food, so have I made them to survive in the lowest heaven on atmospherine food. As Mebe hath risen above these conditions, so will I exalt the foundations of the house of Mebe higher up from the earth than Horde, and Mebe shall be the lower house of my kingdom. 4. The voice of JEHOVIH departed, and God saluted Oahspe in the name of the Father. And a great light enveloped the house of Meb, and the EMBASSADORS chanted a hymn of praise. Thereafter God arose and stood in the throne of JEHOVIH, saying, 5. Hear ye, O all ye people of heaven above and heaven below, the house of Meb in the beginning of the second resurrection is founded in JEHOVIH's name. Proclaim ye the words that have gone out of my mouth, to the east and west and north and south, and to the swift messengers of the arcs of the firmament above. 6. Glory, glory be to JEHOVIH, boundless and almighty Creator, present, and full of love, wisdom and power, glory to thee forever and ever, Amen. 7. The house of Meb chanted a proclamation. The swift messengers assumed their respective globes of light, and began to ascend in every direction, carrying the word to the exalted spheres. 8. And God crowned Oahspe as sub-god of Horde, and he was proclaimed to all the quarters of heaven and earth. And the history of his name exists to this day as Jah, amongst mortals. Chapter 15. Oahspe said, with of a sign, and then return again into Meb, and Meb, so shall my plates be elation bef in JEHOVIH's name, take the seats allotted to you all. For JEHOVIH.